Hi, this is Craig from the University of Applied Research and Development, and this is part of our Veteran Stories Difference Makers series. And I'm delighted to have Army veteran David with us. Hi, David.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, it's absolutely our privilege. I'd love for you to share with us what motivated you to join the military in the first place.
Yeah, Craig, thanks. I grew up in Delaware, Ohio, and as a kid, I loved to read military history. And I think I probably read just about every single World War II book they had in the Delaware County Public Library as a kid. And of course, in World War II, all the American generals had attended West Point. So when it came time to apply to college, I applied early and got in early to West Point and eventually decided that that was the place for me to go. There had never been any history of military. My father wasn't in the military. My mother wasn't in the military. But it was just really off of that love of reading about World War II history that had me end up at West Point. I sometimes questioned that decision-making process while I was at West Point. As you might suspect, West Point was not the easiest college to attend. We like to joke that it's a great place to be from, but not to be at. Um, but did my 4 years at West Point and then was commissioned as an infantry officer in the United States Army.
Wow. And you were there, if I'm not mistaken, 24 years, is that right?
I did 24 years in the Army. I was at West Point from 1989 to 93, and then I served
Mm.
in the Army from the summer of 93 until the summer of 2017.
Tell us about some of your experiences while you're in the Army.
Yeah, as an infantry officer, the thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to go serve in the airborne, and so I worked really hard. So I ended up in the 82nd Airborne Division as a brand new second lieutenant, right out of the infantry officer basic course and ranger school. And the summer of
Oh,
'94 was very interesting for the 82nd Airborne Division because we spent the whole summer preparing to do the invasion of Haiti, in which eventually got happened in September of 1994. Uh, I led my platoon all summer. We trained super hard, and then we got issued live ammunition, and we rigged up our parachutes, and we got on planes, and we flew halfway down to Haiti. And then the dictator of Haiti capitulated to a negotiating team and left the island, and so we didn't get a chance to jump in and seize the airport. And so we joked, we called it Operation Just About because we just about got to combat and just about got to jump in to Haiti. But that was sort of a brand new experience for me as an Army officer and
mm.
sort of set the tone for my career.
David, can I just interrupt? Did you say you're training for a year?
Well, we trained from, I showed up in May of 94 and we were going to do the jump in September of 94. So
Okay.
six months, 5 months, 5 months.
How was that training for such, from my perspective, such an intense and long period of time, and then to actually be starting the mission and then to not do that? How was that? You must have been hyped up and ready to go, and this was the fulfillment of everything you've trained for.
Right. We had spent, I'd spent 4 years at West Point listening to professors talk about their experience in Panama or Grenada or Desert Storm. And then, it was like fulfilling everything. You walked right out of the
Mm,
door, walked in and was the leader of a 40-person organization and
mm.
spent all summer, rehearsing and practicing and trying to get the group as well trained as it possibly could be. It was a bit of a disappointment. There were three of us, three officers that I'm good friends with, that all almost did the jump into Haiti, and we all stuck around in the Army for 20 years. And as we all got ready to retire, we sort of talked about it. And we said, yeah, if we
Wow.
had done that jump into Haiti, we probably all would have gotten out at 5 years, which was our service obligation, because we had
Right.
done everything that we had said that we wanted to do when we got in the Army. We came in, we led soldiers in combat, we did a combat jump, and there wasn't much else to do. And so we might have left the Army, and I might not have done 24 years if things had turned out a little bit differently.
Wow. Tell us more.
Yeah. So I kept chasing hard jobs and interesting sort of places. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and we were talking about my Army career a couple months ago. And I was like, yeah, I sort of didn't get assigned to any of the good places. We didn't end up in Hawaii. We didn't end up uh, at any of the good bases. But I ended up doing lots of deployments. I went to Korea for a year. I came back from
Mm,
Korea. I went to Kosovo for 6 months. Came back from
wow.
Kosovo. Went to Bosnia for 6 months. Came back from
Wow.
Bosnia. Did the invasion of Iraq, and then did two more trips to Iraq in '05 and then '07, '08. And then took 18 months off and then went to Afghanistan for a year in 10 and 11 uh, as the leader of a battalion, which is about 700 people in Southeast Afghanistan.
Wow. Wow. And so how long have you been out of the military?
So I've been out since late summer of 17. So almost, we're coming up on 5 years here this year.
How was that transition for you? Was that an easy thing or difficult?
Uh, there, there were, it was interesting. Most folks don't have the opportunity to change careers wholesale at age 40 something. And it is a tough thing to navigate. And I talk to other folks that are getting ready to get out of the military, or they're making significant career changes in my new role as an executive coach. One of the things I talk to everybody about is think through how you're going to maintain your identity. And for
Mm,
the folks that have done 20 years in the military, a large portion of their identity is wrapped up around being a soldier or a sailor or a pilot or
right.
whichever service. One of the things that I was always proud of or always enjoyed about the Army was the opportunity to do physical fitness. And so one of the things that I helped bridge my transition with was to focus in on my identity as an athlete. And so I started doing half Ironmans and getting doing 100 miles bicycle rides and whatever I could to test myself and go to races and do things.
Mm,
And I felt like I used my identity as an athlete as a way to help bridge the professional change in identity from a
right.
soldier to now an executive coach and leadership trainer.
Wow. That's really smart. So would you encourage people who are in the military and making that transition to really have clarity around your identity and where that's anchored into?
Right, right. And it could be another part of it was, I'm a father. Part
Mm,
of my identity is you know, tied to being a good dad and trying to mentor my daughter, and that's part of it. But you got to think about the whole person kind of uh, setup and think through. And so for me, athlete was what really helped me move from the Army into a post Army life.
when things are
And you
going
you can
well.
see my dog walking around there in the back. That's another part of my identity. She's probably trying to let me know that it's time to go for a walk.
Dog dad. It's part of
Right,
the identity.
right.
When things are going well, I think anchoring or having part of your identity being in your career, your profession, that's fine. But in times of transition or difficulty and challenge, having other things that are our identity is anchored into is helpful to navigate those challenges and those changes. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I'd always wanted to write a book. I had done a master's thesis along the way in the Army, and really wanted to write a book. And so, as COVID hit, I sort of decided to write a book and worked exceptionally hard to write that book there called Grow Your Grit. That was most of my effort in 20 and 21. I've gotten an opportunity to speak to a few organizations about it, and hopefully, if you do take a look at the book and take a look at it, it helps you grow your grit, which I know to the folks in New Zealand they might not get, but it's perseverance or persistence towards accomplishing a long range goal, and you have to
Mm,
have that grit. It's an American term, but you got to have that grit that helps you get towards your goals, especially if it's something that's not structured, like working, towards creating a new business or maybe getting married or getting divorced or something that doesn't have a whole lot of structure. It helps to have that grit that helps to provide a framework as you try to move towards whatever that long range goal is.
Mm. Do you think grit is the difference maker for people?
Grit certainly helps. That idea that you're going to persist and keep trying, and you're going to have that resilience to bounce back when you encounter that inevitable setback. Hold on one second. Sorry, FedEx guy. He violated her territory on the front porch. Gotta defend the house.
That's right.
But I do think that grit plays a key role in people accomplishing things, especially those difficult things. Just today in the news, they found Shackleton's endurance ship underneath the Antarctic ice, and it's Shackleton is the perfect
Wow.
epitome of grit and persevering despite all the odds to overcome and be successful.
Yeah, phenomenal. Tell us what else you're doing with your executive coaching.
Yeah, so I work with I can handle about 10 executives at a time. And I like to work with them one on one. A couple of things that I do differently with executives is I use a tool called the Hogan Instrument as a way to talk about and help understand the client's strengths, their gaps, and then what their motivations are. And we use that as sort of the first session to sort of understand who they are and where they're going, and what may be holding them back. And then I like to go visit them. I call it Take Your Coach to Work Day. But I will fly out and spend a day with the client at their work site. It helps me understand them better. I get to understand the challenges that they're facing in their business, and I get to understand their business better. To me, that really sets me up to really do a much better job trying to help that person accomplish whatever their goals and dreams are, which is the whole
Mm,
reason why that they've taken me on as an executive coach. And then
right.
we do some goal setting, and then we start. I build the rest of the program into a tailored program based on whatever that they're trying to achieve. But it's great to have a coach in your corner, and I've really got a lot of personal fulfillment out of helping these executives that I've had the opportunity to work with uh, make forward progress on their goals and dreams.
Oh,
Samantha's actually been employee of the month every month that I've had her.
that's fantastic.
She was a
Core
little
part of the
nervous.
team.
She was a little nervous when I brought Josh on there, that she was going to lose her role as employee of the month.
That's hilarious. So she hasn't quite got the security just yet.
Just yet, yeah, yeah. Well, I told her that she needed to raise her game a little bit. So, yeah.
David, I'm just really, really keen to hear some leadership nuggets of wisdom from you. You've already mentioned about grit and how important that is. If you're talking to people that are maybe aspiring leaders, people are looking to make that shift up in the organization or even lead their own organization to branch out, what would be some key insights or thoughts that you would share with them to prepare now into their toolkit of leadership before they make that next move?
So, a, a large number of the problems, and think back to the leaders that you've worked with. A large number of the problems with leadership center around communication. The
Mm,
first step I would talk to folks that are thinking about taking the step into a leadership role is think about how do you improve your listening skills, because you want to
mm,
be seen as a good listener as a leader, and it definitely helps and gives you an advantage to be a better leader if you're a good listener.
that's
And
good.
first off, you have to really be an active listener. And Craig, you do a great job of doing that here on the show.
Thank you.
You try to not show any judgment, You do ask follow-up questions, and you also try to summarize what I've said, which is a way to make sure that the other person knows that they've been heard. And so that idea of listening better, and then the second step is how do you communicate better? And one of the tools I'm a big fan of is this idea of the back brief, which is a military tool. And all your military listeners out there can sort of know that. But in a corporate setting, a way to use a back brief is if Craig, you asked me to do something, I would say it back to you in my own words. That way, we both
Mm.
have the opportunity to hear it twice. Because sometimes you say things that sound great in your head and they don't come out so well out of your mouth. But the opportunity to hear that person say it back to what you told them to do is a great way to ensure that everybody's on the same page. The questions, if there is a question about what needs to be accomplished, it's resolved, and it lets each of
Mm.
you hear it. And so you can both go off knowing, if I told you to do something and you said it back to me, Craig, I would be reasonably confident that you would go out and accomplish whatever it is that we had just talked about. There's definitely that opportunity to miss that if you don't use that idea of a back brief to do it.
Mm.
So 2 things for the new leaders. Think about how to be a better listener, and then think about your communication style. And you may want to use the back brief, which is something you can take from your military experience right into the corporate sector.
Brilliant. Really love that. Thank you for that. Just as we wrap up, what's the best way for people to get hold of you? I've got the your website here on the screen, and I've got your LinkedIn profile as well in the show notes. Is there another way that people can get hold of you?
Those are great ways. Also, there's several different places on the website where you can send an email to me or start the conversation. My email is david.fivecoat@thefivecoatconsultinggroup.com. I'd love to hear from your listeners and see if I can help them out in any way, either make the transition from the military into a corporate job. I just talked with a guy this morning who's getting out of the Navy in a couple of months and wants to become a consultant. And would love to talk to some of your listeners that are thinking about that, or those that are already into a leadership role and might need a little bit of help to get to the next level. Love
Mm.
to hear from them.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad you got to meet Sam too,
The star of the show.
the star.
For those people watching the recording, whether you're on Facebook or on LinkedIn or YouTube, Twitch or Twitter or one of the other platforms where we host our shows, thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to having you with us again on another Veteran Stories. And if you are a veteran or you're a family member of the veteran, we have got our bachelor degrees and our master's degrees with our university, and they are approved by the VA. So we'd love to host you in New Zealand if you'd like to come and visit us and gain a degree. And also we're establishing some locations in the US over the next year as well. So we'd love to serve you, serve your family, help you move your career goals forward. And with the show notes, obviously we've got David's links as well. So do reach out to him when you want that leadership development. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you again.